All right, what is good, my guys? It's your boy Brad, Dos Microfonos, here on a beautiful Monday in northeastern Pennsylvania. Feel like it's raining up and down the whole East Coast. Feels like forever. So hopefully I'm gonna do some edits for you guys while I'm stuck inside and waiting for the rain to break and take Yogi the dog on a little trot around the neighborhood on this beast if it's not too wet. So, first thing I wanted to get into, got to give my shout outs, which I'm not sure where I left them, but let me go get those. Practice if I can edit this. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Either way, success. There were a bunch this week, and I don't want to forget you guys because you guys are what keeps the shop going and what keeps me doing this. So, big shout outs to Brant S. in North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Shout out to Thomas in Richmond, New York. There's also a Richmond, Indiana, but this guy was in New York. So I sent it to Indiana by accident. We got it back to New York. Alex Mesta, who is in New Jersey. Shout out, Alex. Talking to you this week. And David M. in Virginia. Jim, the Ingeminator. Always a guy I like to go to when I'm looking for tips. And he's also a great supporter of RPO. And Blake in Illinois. Shout out to you, Blake. Thanks for finding me. And some of the parts that disappeared from the shop this week and went to those guys were the United Incarnate frame, Animal front load stem in red, the pop off. I believe I have one more of those, the USA made ones. Um, Actually, that was the jump off. And then I believe Alex bought the pop off and a couple other items. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate that. Every single time you guys purchase something helps me keep the shop open. I invest all that money right back into BMX parts to do things like bike giveaways and give back to the BMX community and try to get in the black because I've been stuck in the red here for a couple years. And that's just BMX. You do it for the love. You don't do it for the money. So know that. Secondly, wanted to get into the state of BMX at the moment, which pretty interesting. I don't know if you guys, if you follow these channels and you watch Brant more, which fan of Brant. I love that Brant commits so much time and effort to BMX. I think his channel has a ton of information. You can find anything on it. And yeah, so yeah, shout out to Brant and his channel. But Brant was talking about a post that was made by a professional rider, rode for Eclat, name's Tai Marrow, and he is a beast, or should I say was a beast, probably one of the best street riders to come along in the past decade, absolutely, or in the past 2 decades. Just a savage, rides for Fiend, I think. I haven't seen him in a video for a couple years. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. But I noticed that he put a post up on Instagram slamming Eclat, saying they haven't responded, and that they are producing his Morrow tires without his name on it. He didn't approve the graphics. He left them quietly 2 years ago, which kind of makes it seem like, I separated from the brand. We amicably, parted ways, and I kept it quiet. So that was the impression I got. And then out of nowhere, 2 years later, after selling out of all the tires that have my cool design on it with the Eclat colors, they come out with the same tire design with a new hot stamp on it. If you're wondering what a hot stamp is, this is your hot stamp. And basically they took the colors out, they made it black and white, and they'll probably sell the tires for the same price minus the color, so it'll be a little bit cheaper. But he was saying they didn't contact him about it, they didn't let him know, they still owe him royalties, da 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 da. And I feel for the guy. I do, because you don't make a lot of money in BMX, and I understand that. But that doesn't make you any less of a professional athlete. And when it comes to being a professional athlete and working with these large brands, it's very important to know that the reason why a lot of these NFL and NBA players and all the way down to like pickleball players have managers, is because those managers are able to circumvent all the different tricks that these big companies use to try to take something from you and make it yours, such as a product or a signature product, kind of like with Michael Jordan and Jordans now versus the Nike Air and the Air Jordan, kind of like a mock shoes. So that's become two brands. Why did it become two brands? Because Michael Jordan owned half of it and he bought the rest of it out and bought the Air Jordan name. So under the comments, after listening to both sides of Brandt's information that was given, I responded to Tai, and I wanted to read everything, but I'm only going to read my response. And if you go on Instagram, I'm sure if you look up Tai, you can see his posts. And this was my response to his story after reading both his post and Eclat's response. I wrote, "The story is sus. After the whole Julian Arteaga situation, do you really think that Eclat would make the same mistake twice, knowing that it would hurt their brand more than the rider?" Now, they would have done this twice in less than 12 months' time. That's less than a year. They would have stolen a product. Julian Arteaga, who now rides for Cinema and Sunday, I think if you guys remember, they took his Octagrip and then they went and started selling it, but they took it off the market because Julian had paperwork showing his design and what he wanted, and they really didn't have a fight there. They also probably realized that it would hurt the brand more if for Julian to continue talking poorly about them than it would hurt Julian. So I think they defaulted on that. However, I don't think that brand would try to pull that same stunt twice in 1 year. So back to my comment. Do you really think they would make the same mistake twice, knowing it will hurt the brand more than the rider? Why didn't Tai request a written contract, or, as a professional athlete, have his manager request one? And I'm sorry, but that's a live and learn situation. It's not on the company. I like Tai and I love his riding, but a mistake is a mistake, and to take to social media knowing you have a ton of followers in hopes to discredit a brand, I find to be a bit of a feminine maneuver and not a masculine one. And by that, I mean, you always are seeing these women on TikTok and Instagram whining about this and that and this and that. We're men, man. When we make a mistake, it sucks. It hurts our pride, especially when it's out of lack of knowledge of a situation, which is what I think happened here. I think there's two sides of the story. Obviously, Eclat is doing this legally. I'm sure they have lawyers that they checked with prior to releasing the tire. And unfortunately, since Tai, he was like one of the top riders in street 2 years ago. I haven't seen him in a while. Did he quietly part ways? Did he post up a picture of his resignation? Did Eclat also responded that they had sent him several emails. Now, Eclat cannot post those emails. Those emails, if they were posted, Tai could sue them for breach of confidentiality. He could sue them for libel. There's all different types of things the athlete can do. However, the athlete, he can post any of those emails from Eclat, or he can even post the email he sent to them that shows that he is quietly parting ways. We have nothing in writing, nothing in black and white. I believe it was simply a mistake on Tai's part, and Eclat took advantage of the situation by not having contracts signed, and they rightfully now own that tire and that tire design. It costs about $25,000 to do a tire mold and make a tire. That's a lot of money in BMX. So a company that knows that they can get away with something like that, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying that, yeah, it's a live and learn situation. Maybe next time get something in writing. I know it hurts. I know it stings, but it's a mistake. Live and learn. Don't make the same mistake twice. If you're still trying to live on royalties like 2 years later and you're not a musician or something, they're not going to last that long anyway. And if you did have a contract, you could easily take them to court and get repaid all those royalties. So with that said, I'm going to read what Tai wrote back to me, which was kind of shocking because I don't consider myself to be anyone important in BMX. But to get this response from a professional rider was a little disheartening. So Tai wrote back, RPO BMX, please enlighten me to what is sus about this. You calling me a fucking liar? Laugh face. By the way, this is BMX. Freestyle street BMX at that. 90% of us can barely pay our rent without a side hustle. There aren't managers in this discipline unless you're making the podium at the X Games. So, with that said, asshole want to run by the window with a freaking lawnmower. Yeah, that's right. I said it, asshole. Yeah, man, that was like shocking to me, like to have a pro like come at me that way. I don't feel anything was really negative about what I said except the word sus. Maybe I could have said, I find this a little bit confusing, but I did find it a little bit suspect because when somebody reacts that way to you, usually they're reacting because it's the truth. If it's not the truth, people don't seem to give a, you know what I mean? If it's not true, someone says, oh, you're a, you know, I don't know, murderer. Let's say someone called me. I never murdered anybody. I never went to jail. I'm not even thinking about that. Anyone that knows, yeah, whatever, you want to believe I'm a murderer walking the streets, that's fine. You want to believe, you know, that, you know, they didn't steal my tire, that's fine. I know they did. Why defend yourself to someone at my level? It didn't make sense to me, and it just kind of increased my belief that, yeah, it stings to get burned in business. It stings to get burned in life. We've all been burned in life in one way or another, financially, relationships, whatever. But got to get over it, use it as a lesson learned, and move on. Because if Tai was making no money in BMX and he was very unhappy with his situation and just doing it for the love of BMX, I would think that he would, you know, ask some advice, get some information, say, hey guys, what's the best way to do this? I ride for a company that is owned by the best BMXer that ever lived, Garrett Reynolds. Maybe Garrett might have some advice for me in this situation as opposed to, you know, just jumping into a sponsorship. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm not on either side yet because I have not seen proof of either one. I'm just saying that, yes, it sucks. Yes, I do think Eclat probably took advantage of that situation, but they did it within their rights and they did it legally. So I'm going to leave that one at that and get into this bike check. So the other thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to bike checks is some of these pros, man. I don't know, man. I love watching a bike check. I love listening to someone like Dak or Ethan Courier explain their bike and why it is the way it is down to a T, what they like about the back end, why it's a certain length, why the bottom bracket height is the way it is, why the head tube is shaped, the offset of forks they use, which way they run their tire, forward or backwards. And I watched, what was I watching this morning? I think it was Angie Martino for Colt. And I'm a fan of Colt. I carry Colt products, love Robbie Morales. Known him for a long, long time. Not like known him well, but used to watch him ride at Posh when I was a kid. And you would think that someone, knowing they have like a bike check coming up, because this is nothing new, these source bike checks, they would, you know, maybe as a pro athlete go over some of the, you know, parts and just kind of figure out what they got going on and what they're riding and why. Because believe me, she knows what she's riding. She knows why she's riding it. And she knows all the parts. To pretend she doesn't, in my opinion, is like saying, oh, I'm just good. I just ride whatever, you know, it's fun for me, which I don't buy. I just don't buy it. I think she knows why she chooses that frame. I think that back end is extremely long, and that's why she rides it. I think that it's a very stable, low to the ground frame, not meant to go too crazy high, but it's also like a mix between a park and a street bike. So in the future, if anybody is making comments on these bike checks, let's try to get these people to like really dig into these bike checks. And what bothers me even more is when it's like a bike check for cult and they ride for another company and have like Eclat cranks and stuff, and all they go over is the cult parts. Just I don't get it. It's okay. You can ride other parts. Just explain why. Unless, you know, brand manager or brand owner says, you're doing a cult bike check, don't talk about any parts but cult parts. No Odyssey, no nothing. But Ethan Courier did it. He's riding Federal pedals. And what else did he say? And a volume Biz, Ryan Biz Jordan free coaster in the back by Demolition. And he said it was his favorite free coaster. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, let's level that up, Angie, and some of you other guys that pretend you don't know exactly what you're riding, even though you've been riding every day of your life since you were like 4 or 5. And I'm going to get into this. And like I said, this is just an update. Just an update. Want to show you guys a few parts that I added on. And it's almost final. Right now, we're coming in at 26 pounds even. So with the brake setup and the beefy tubing on this frame, I watched another bike check. I watched Jordan O'Kane's machine bike check last night. And man, those guys from like Scotland or where he's from, you can't understand a word you're saying, but I love the way I love their accents. So yeah, go watch Jordan O'Kane's bike check and tell me if you understand anything more than I do. But basically what he said he liked so much about it was that there was extra thick tubing. We have super sturdy gussets here. This one has a kind of like I want to say it's an embossing of the Bone Death sign on the top. I never understood why Fit and S&M put theirs down here. Looks a little better on the top, I think. I don't know. Some people like it just a smooth, clean look, but I think it looks a little better there. The standover. Standover wasn't listed, which I wanted to measure it, and I'm looking for a measurement, but I don't think I'm going to find it. I have a feeling this is a 9-inch standover. I believe it might be like 8.8 to right here, and then this little extra seat post probably makes it about 9 inches from the center of the bottom bracket to the center of the seat tube. So we'll go with 9 inches. If I remember where a ruler is, if it's nearby, I'll grab one soon, but I'm going to say it's not much different. 71 degrees seat tube, typical 75-degree head tube, nothing too steep over 75 degrees. So it's very stable, and a 13.3 chainstay, I believe it is, slammed. So right here, I'd have it around 13.4, 13.5 maybe, and I think that's perfect. I really rarely take this bike out. I might have ridden it a couple times, and I changed the wheels. Because I think the red wheels look great. This is one of my favorite wheel sets, the Eastern Buzz Zips. I've talked about these before. They sound fantastic. They sound great, and they look good with the animal. These aren't their nub nuts, but they're kind of their axle nuts, and I threw a little spacer on because the axles were a little bit too long. It's a male axle, and I think it looks perfect. Matches with the bike really well. This is a 20.8 top tube, which is personally my favorite size top tube. I don't think the 0.5 matters much, but for me, I like 20.8. And I'm 5'8" and 3/4, probably about 5'9" in shoes, so right around 5'9". And let's see, what else do we have about this frame that I want to say? It's a 4.5-inch head tube. It does have gyro tabs, so I was able to throw my Larry the Cable Guide in, but I'll flip the bike around for you. And I'll get into some of the new parts. Got some Brock Rayford black and clear swirl grips. These are the Kink. I believe they're called the lightest bar end. I was debating throwing on these Shadow, but I might be saving these for the SEMO build. Not sure. The reason I like these bar ends is because I am running a brake and I'm able to slide the grip out a little further so the brake is not on the bend, and these grips come over top of the bar end like this. So as you can see, it adds about, I'm going to say 5 millimeters to the bar length, which isn't bad when it comes to a total of 10 millimeters for both sides. On this side, I also have a black grip stop, which is aluminum. Not sure who made that, but I like to have the grip stop on there when I'm running brakes. Get into the brakes, the new lever I'm running, Eastern throttle lever, one of my favorite levers. I like that it has the nice wide lever. It has a hinged clamp that you can tighten, take off, and change. And it's very lightweight and pretty, you can see it's pretty thick here. It's not very thin, and just, it's comfortable and it looks good. I think it looks good. It's got those lightning bolts on it, and it's sticking with the Bone Death machine style build, trying to keep it looking a little bit more robotic. Bars, shout out to Mikey G at Bike USA. Yeah, hooked me up. We traded. I traded a pair of ISM bars by a stranger for a set of these Shadow straight gauge crowbars, and these have a 12-degree back sweep and a 3-degree up sweep. I love the 3-degree up sweep. I love the 12-degree back sweep. Brings them back a little bit more than most. Street bars are usually around 10-11-degree back sweep, which is more straight up to allow them to be a little more snappy. Trail frames can sometimes, well, they'll usually be about 12 at the max degree back sweep. And the 3-degree up sweep, due to the sore wrists, also for some reason tilts them up here. It just feels a little more comfortable, puts a little more pressure here instead of where I have the pain on the outside of my hand. And the rise on these suckers is 9 inches. I'm going to say 9 inches. I think they might have one smaller, but I believe they're 9 inches. The reason they look like they're a little smaller is because of that 3-degree up sweep here at the end. It brings the top up a little bit more. And the difference, these straight gauge ones are not butted. Butted means that on the bends, they would have stronger, thicker tubing, and everywhere else it would be thinner to allow the bars to be a lighter weight, which is like the Shadow featherweight bars, which I think I've also talked about. And one of the coolest features of these handlebars is this teardrop style crossbar, which is really cool. I can kind of show you if you look at an angle. Just something, you know, guys love those. I love gimmicks, guys. And no one else has bars like that, and I think that's sick. I am still waiting for the oversized bars to get a little more popular, but in the meantime, I just make sure I get a beefy stem, kind of like this one. This is the United Mickey Fleck stem. If you don't know Mickey Fleck by now, he won last year's Nora Cup Reader's Choice Rider of the Year. The guy grinds anything. He grinds through metal, Superbite pedals. I think that just about says it all right there. So he's also sponsored by United and Primo. So those are two of my favorite brands and two of the brands that we carry here at RPO BMX. So yeah, Mickey front load stem, was looking for one in brass, couldn't find it, but they did have these in stock, and I've had this one for over a year. Decided to throw it on here. I think it matches really well with the build. Onto the Primo headset, polished headset. And since I changed some of the red, I'm debating on throwing maybe a little bit of red in here because don't have a whole lot of red up front except for the wheels. You guys let me know if you think that red should be added. And let's see, moving on to the forks. This is a chrome set of the Bone Death bottom feeder forks. Really cool forks. I had a few of these in stock earlier last year. Sold out pretty quickly. I'll see if I can get any more in. I don't think they make them anymore. The reason these were such a pop, they're a 32 millimeter offset. They have a hydroformed tapered legs, and on the dropout which is a really cool, unique shape. There's a few other forks that have a similar shape, but it has this little upside down crucifix on it, which the Cruciforks do not have. I know the Cruciforks are newer, but they don't have this. And that's kind of like one of the coolest parts, I think, on the forks is that little upside down crucifix on both sides. Little red washer, aluminum washer by Shadow, and some Demolition Bulimia thread-on hub guards that are alloy that I fit perfectly to the Eastern Buzz Zip front wheel or front hub. All right. And I got the cool bottom feeder sticker here. I'm not quite sure what that's a picture of, but looks like some sort of monster. So I'm guessing that's some sort of a bottom feeder of sorts. And seat. Recent seat switch. Wasn't sure about doing this, but I decided to go with the Primo Yumi seat with the extra grip on here and the white, being as I don't ride this very much. And I'm always taking offers if anyone's interested in the frame and fork or even the complete build, because I just love building bikes. I'd rather someone be out riding them than sitting here in my basement. Awesome seat, pivotal seat, Kevlar, what do they call that? Upholstery, maybe? Anyway, it's Kevlar, doesn't rip. However, I'm sure it gets dirty pretty quickly. Comes in white and black. They are currently out of stock right now at Stranger, but they should be coming in soon with a bunch of new parts, Crew 22 frames, new come over two-piece bars, or the 2.0 bars, and there's just a bunch of stuff coming, so keep an eye out, because all the new Stranger Primo stuff that was pre-ordered last October, I think, by RPO, hopefully was supposed to come in at the end of May. Now we're hoping at the end of June, which would be nice. Seat post, basic aluminum pivotal seat post and a gloss color. Now it's become tough to find the aluminum in gloss, so I just think the gloss matches a lot better. I do not know what brand it is. And another change I just made, for the drivetrain, I had on the Shadow Skull sprocket, which was 28 tooth, looked sick. But once these tires came on and I talked to my boy Jim, we agreed that the Primo Sean Ricani 28 tooth sprocket here would definitely look a little bit more choice, as they used to say back in the day. So went with that, and we have the KMC cool chain. I think it looks better than the Fly. I had the Fly tractor chain on. Apparently Fly is selling the tractor chains now again. However, they weren't made this time like they were made in the past. The pins are a little effed up, if you know what I mean. I saw some pictures on Facebook of a guy who got a chain from them and it just looked busted. So I'm hoping that not all of them are like that, but you guys let me know if you got a Fly chain recently, a tractor chain on one of your bikes, and how they look, because the chain I used to have on here, that was my favorite chain. Runs super smooth. It just looked a little thin. I think this bulkiness looks a little better, and it also is going to guard the sprocket as opposed to having to use a guard sprocket. Might be a little overkill, but I think it looks good. Again, gimmicks, me and gimmicks. So, pedals. I know you guys are thinking your pedals are on the wrong way. These are the Animal BPE, also known as the Animal Best Pedal Ever. These are another discontinued part. These are I believe just like a 2 or 3 piece pedal. They have a nice strong chromoly spindle. They have a couple of bushings. They do not have bearings, and they slide in and you tighten them from the back with an Allen key. You can use an 8mm or a 6mm. Problem was they weren't spinning properly. A lot of the pedals, when tightened too tight, they didn't spin. I have another replacement pair of pedal bodies like this in black. I tried them. They don't work. I'm gonna have to mess with them a little bit and find out if there's a trick that helps them work. I also talked to Ryan Howard at Animal, And he told me that, yeah, they definitely, some of them need a little extra machining in order to roll smoothly. Luckily, these, I greased them up. They roll smoothly. Technically, these things are not supposed to be facing this way. They're supposed to be flipped. However, I like it when the wider side of the pedal is on the outside rather than the inside. If you check out Primo turbo pedals, they're the same way. A lot of other pedals are the same way, that this part is, it comes in here, leaves a little more room if you're doing crank arm grinds, which I am not, by the way. I'm not trying to say I do. But yeah, it's more comfortable, rolls just as smooth, and perfect for me. So very happy with these pedals right now. Really thick plastic, and they spin enough. Like, they're tightened completely and they spin. When I tighten the other ones completely, they don't even spin. Like, your foot, when it's going around, will just get thrown off the pedal. So bottom bracket here, we are running a total aluminum bottom bracket in red, very lightweight. I like total stuff. I carry a lot of total stuff, headsets, bottom brackets, and they always add like a little bit extra to their small parts, such as these cutouts that I'll show you when it comes up close. Cranks, United Severance cranks, 2.5 piece, 2.5 piece crank, which means that one of the crank arms is connected to the spindle, and they're very simple to put on. You only have to put one bolt in and adjust your spacers, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's they have the United logo on the inside, which I'll show you. And what was else was I going to show you guys on this side? I can't really think of it. We were talking about the brakes. Oh yeah, so let's go back to the brakes. Here's our Larry the Cable Guide, one of the prototypes. He works with gyro tabs only on the front end. And because, as I said, this is made from a very malleable metal called pewter, it's not going to cut your brake cable. I took one of them off after testing it for a while, and you could see like it kind of adjusted its shape to fit perfectly with the brake cable. So yeah, that will adjust, and it will kind of like meld into the perfect angle. Got a little, I'm not a fan of zip ties. I think they messed the paint up, so threw on some of the Velcro here. Have a basic cable hanger, and connected to that are the Eclat, the Bicycle Union claw brake set, which is a very slim, these are forged, cold forged brake arms. They have a very slim profile, as you can see. And they have the Bicycle Union logo right here. I had them on the Root Designs frame. And these are the pads that actually come with these brakes. I believe I have a couple sets left in the shop in black. And they're just very lightweight, very low profile, especially if you're running them on the chainstay down here and you need something that's kind of small and fits right in here. These are probably great brake pads for you. And let's see what else we got. That's going to be about it. Got a different little Bone Death logo here. I told you guys about the Buzz Zip wheel set. Hopefully, I sent a letter to Eastern, about getting some more sets of these in. I'd love to get a set in black. I'd love to carry them in the shop, because I'm going to be honest, they're one of my favorite wheel sets. I think I've trued them once, like basic Titan. I've cleaned out the pawls and whatnot. It's a 6-pawl system. It sounds great. It fits with this Odyssey steel hub guard. Not that I need it, but there are several hub guards that do work with this style of hub. Tires. Shout out to the BMX Whisperer, who's my mechanic when I am at my wit's end, who came across a pair of these. These are one of the first tires I bought from Action Wheels when I got back into riding. These were a little bit blown out, but I really love them. I plan to get a new pair with a nice dark black color. These are the Tioga Spectre tires, and the front one is a 2.4-inch width, and the rear is 20 by 2.25, which works fantastic with these rims because they are a little wider. I believe they're 36 or 38 millimeter width. I think 36. And if the tire were too fat with this brake set, it wouldn't fit. So these, they actually fit perfectly. I have a couple of hub dusters on here, which keep my hubs from getting too dusty. And whether you believe me or not, they really work. So my tire pressure, I usually go right to about 60, 62. And when you're using a tire that's already worn and it gets to 62, that's pretty good. It probably might drop down to like 55. And then sometimes I'll let a little air out if like it's hurting my wrist or something. But a bike like this, I'm going to use mainly for hill bombs and for show. Like, I'm going to ride it, obviously, if, you know, no one's interested in it. But yeah, if you're ever interested in any of these parts, these builds are kind of like mannequins for the shop. You see something you like, I build them to give ideas, and I usually carry most of the parts. And if I don't, I'll take it right off the bike, give you a discount for being on a shop build. So that's why when I write shop build, it's just for you to kind of see what it might look like if you were to put something together. So other than that, hype video of the week. Shout out to Preston O'Kirk, Riley Smith, and Mikey Andrews. These guys went to Colombia, Medellin, Colombia, which is where Pablo Escobar's cartel is from. And these guys just like shredded it. First of all, I'm not going to Medellin. I'm not going. I'm not going to Colombia. Not going to risk it. But these guys, they will risk it, and they did some crazy stuff. Riley Reid did this grind to over rail with about an 8-foot drop. That was crazy at the end for a banger. Milky did something, I'm trying to think, that was also crazy. And Preston O'Kirk did this. Now, mind you, these guys are in Medellin, Colombia, no helmets, no pads or anything. 1,000 miles away from home, just sending it. And it was raining too. And Preston O'Kirk jumps off this like ledge onto this short like roof that is just kind of like a porch roof, maybe about this wide, slanted. Not only that, but he keeps his right side pegs on. So that means he's got to land on this slanted roof, not hit the wall with the pegs. So he's got this much room. You could take the pegs off and add yourself some room. One of those pegs gets caught, you're toasted, you're foobarred. So lands somewhat sideways on the roof, drops off another good 10 feet into one of those Colombian hills, and goes rolling. And the look on his face was pretty much like, I just cheated death, which he pretty much did. Can't imagine what that feels like. Can't imagine chasing that feeling again and trying to find it. And I have a feeling that's why a lot of our riders, we don't have guys like, I want to say Tony Hawk, Rob Dyrdek, and some of the older riders, some of the older skaters that are still around that are great, like, what's the word would you say? They're somewhat of an elder statesman in skateboarding. BMX, we have like Matt Hoffman, and the other guys just, they got hurt. Like, they literally got hurt. You get really hurt when you fall off your bike. You ride a bike long enough, you're going to get an injury. You're not wearing your helmet. Even when you're wearing your helmet, Scotty Cranmer, Mike Aiken, you name it. These guys, bad luck. Bikes are very dangerous compared to a lot of other sports. 99% risk to like a 1% reward rate. And that 1% reward, that's got to be love, man. Like, you have to love it. This is an activity of persistence, repetition, meditation, frustration, accomplishment. Just, there's so much that goes into riding that you just, it takes a lot of focus. And that's why a lot of people don't do it. That's why it's not mainstream. And to be honest, I don't want it to be mainstream. I like it the way it is. So I didn't want this video to go too long for you guys, but I did have some feelings on some things and the way they're going. these are just my opinions. I'm not a doctor of BMXology. I just have some ideas, and I hope to show you guys some parts that are available. The other thing I was thinking of doing with this was possibly throwing on these Cult Quattro bars with the Primo Icon stem, which look pretty crazy sick with this Cult seat, which is a tripod, and it's very lightweight, so it definitely would take the weight down. I also have a feeling these stems are similar in weight, and being that these bars are the crow bars and these Quattros are butted, they might be lighter, but we may be saving this for another build. So you guys let me know what you think. Would love to build up a Sabrosa, or actually I have an idea for this Cult stuff, but I'm looking to do a Sabrosa build. If anyone has a Sabrosa frame aftermarket that they're looking to sell, that I can rebuild and hopefully get to someone for a really low price. We're getting a pump track in the area soon. Trying to get these kids on 20-inch bikes before they jump straight to those wheelie bikes and start ruining the pump track with them, or even mountain bikes, God forbid. But yeah, that's it for today. One final thing. This is for Shad from Goods BMX. I found a pair of the Edwin grips with the flanges. Check out the Goods BMX YouTube page. I know he's always looking for fresh sets of these grips. And hey man, you subscribe, I will send these grips to you. I probably should have said that earlier in the video, but maybe someone will let Shad know and say, hey Shad, leave a comment, subscribe. Your boy Brad's going to send you over a pair of these grips. And I would love to do that. I love doing collaborations, and hopefully have some guys coming in here soon to be doing bike checks. What'll happen is I'll end up taking their bike and doing the bike check for them, because some people, I'm not, just like me, not that comfortable to sit in front of this camera and talk. But hopefully it's raining, you guys are bored, you're working on your bikes, you can throw this on, you're stuck in the shop, you want to listen to something, why not listen to me talk about bikes? So yeah, let me give you some close-ups. Like I said, this is the latest update. I don't see it changing aside from possibly updating the tires. And when it comes to the giveaway, we are always improving the giveaway frame. I currently threw on 4 pegs, a set of the Primo forks, and a tree spline drive sprocket with the Eclat 4-stroke half-link chain, and nice Eastern real leather seat. So yeah, I'm going to keep this thing improving as the raffle tickets increase. We got a bunch this week. I'm going to say we're around 40. When that thing hits 100, the raffle's going off. Let me give you guys some up closes here. There's your crowbar. I'll tell you what, that stem is CNC'd and it's beef. I do like it a lot. All right, guys, thanks for checking out the Bone Death again. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know what you guys want to see next. Peace.